This is Groundeffected. My name is your dad, and welcome to my 3D printing room. In this room is where I keep my printers, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can prepare your prints for the most epic painting. One of the most important things about 3D printing is how you take the model out of your printer and prepare it before you paint it. And I say the most important because, believe me, if you do any of these things not right, and by not right what I mean is if you just cut corners and don't do any of the things that you need to do to set up for a good paint job, your paint job is not going to be a good paint job and you're going to have a bad time. When you first start 3D printing, it might be quite a daunting task when you look at all the things that you need in order to get your 3D prints out of the printer. And I'm here to tell you that it's not as mad or as crazy as it may seem. It's a pretty simple process. As long as you follow a couple of easy steps, this should be as easy as preparing a model for painting. Wait, what? This should be a really easy process. At the end of the day, all we're doing is taking the prints from this machine, cleaning them up, and getting the supports off of them with as little damage as possible. In this video, however, we're just going to cover the model coming out the machine. You know, the annoying thing is that I wasn't even in focus that whole time. So we're going to be focusing on taking them out of the machine, cleaning them in isopropyl, getting them ready to have their supports removed. And once the supports are removed, we'll get them into the UV curer, and I'm going to show you that whole process right now. So it all starts with taking the prints off your printer. The way I like to do this is by making sure everything I need is ready and available right in front of me or the printer. And this for me is my tray of magic stuff, as you can see in this image right here. I also like to use, before I take off that build plate, I take a very soft, or usually you get one of these plastic spatula things, and I like to scrape off any excess resin that is on top of the build plate. This is so that it doesn't squirt all over the place when I take it off. Then I will take those parts and put them into my lovely tray that I've set up. If you don't have one of these trays, you should probably look at getting one of these trays. It makes life so much easier, it contains all the mess, and it makes sure that you don't get any of this mess anywhere else. I then use a metal spatula. This is one that came with my Acrylic machine. I've used the other ones that you get. They got like a black plastic handle. This one is so much sharper and so much better. I use the same spatula to go back over the build plate and make sure that there is nothing left from the previous print. Especially sometimes you can scrape off parts and leave a tiny little piece of the raft on the build plate. This is not good. Make sure they're all off. I then take isopropyl alcohol. Do not drink this stuff. It is not for drinking. It is for cleaning model hobby parts only, and this is why I have a massive tub of it, which is then used to dunk my parts in, and I agitate the living daylights out of them. As much as I'm willing to agitate before I feel like I may spill any of this on the floor, on my clothes, or anywhere around. As I take off my gloves here, I want you to notice something. The way I take them off is by grabbing the cuff and not straight with the thumb into the hole, because otherwise you'll be transferring all of that gooey resin alcohol mix into your hand, and you might as well have not worn gloves at that point. I then take some paper towel and put it onto a baking tray. I use this so that I can move the parts around without getting drippy drops of alcohol and resin everywhere. This is how the parts look when they come out the machine. They're all wet and all the gooiness has been washed off by the alcohol. The alcohol wash is the most important wash when you're using standard resins. The next step for me is to take off the supports, and in order to do that and make it easier on myself, I'm going to use warm water, as well as a couple tools to help me in this process. A pair of small tweezers, a sharp knife or blade of some kind, and some scissors. I put my gloves back on again because at this point the resin technically is still toxic. I use a boiling water from a kettle, and I mix a little bit of cold water in the bucket as well as that boiling water to make a rather warm water bath for my parts now. This, as you can see, makes them super easy to come off the supports. Usually the supports just melt away like butter. Once I've got most of the bigger parts off and it's time to start dealing with the little bit more intricate parts, smaller pieces that may break if I'm being a little bit not careful, I will cut apart the smaller bits. So I will cut out each character and make sure that I've got enough space around the character to work off the supports, especially if there are really small pieces like little hands on miniatures and things like that. You want to make sure you have enough area around them to start working at the supports. And what you can see I'm doing is I'm using the tools that I have. I will cut off the supports from things like fingers, guns, any small little sticks that maybe stick out, feathers, stuff like that. I'll cut those supports first before I decide to tug on them. But mostly you can see it's just a process of slowly pulling away at them. They will come apart little bit by little bit. You don't want to try to pull the entire character out of the support all in one go. Yes, this would be amazing, but just take your time. There's no need to rip off an arm and have to glue it back on just because you were too impatient taking off the supports. Here you can see I'm using my knife just to cut those parts, knowing full and well that trying to pull on this tiny little bandage thing that's sticking out of this friggin' kung fu dude, I would snap that off by pulling it. So rather than be stupid about it, I'm just gonna cut them before I start pulling on them. And as you can see, everything comes out the supports without any damage. It's the easy way, man. This is how the prints look. They're a little bit wet from being in the water bath. I'm now going to take these prints and I'm going to stick them into my UV curer. A lot of people have different mindsets on how long to leave them in the UV curer, what kind of UV curer. I just use a nail bar. It cost me 20 quid on Amazon. It was delivered the next day and it works wonders. What I do is I will usually leave them in until they don't feel sticky anymore. That for me is usually cured enough. This could be anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. It just depends on the size and thickness of the part. Thinner pieces will take quicker and thicker pieces will take longer. Hopefully that you've managed to learn something in this video that will help you in your future 3D printing endeavors. In fact, 3D printing should be as easy as 3D printing. Also, we are now at the part of the video where I need to say a super special thank you to my patrons, and we got a couple new patrons this week, and that is Alan Barmer and Robert Armour. Those two names rhyme. It's time for me to get to the best part of the video, and this is the part where I get to tell you if you didn't like anything you saw in this video, the best thing you can do is just cough. Now it's time to slap some paint on these bad boys.